Welcome to Spark in the Spiral, a podcast where ADHD meets creativity and we have empowering conversations that celebrate neurodivergence. Whether you're chasing your dreams, building a career, or just trying to survive the dopamine drought, this is your space to laugh, learn, and find the spark in your own spiral. Hi, I'm Sonali. Welcome to episode 2 of my podcast, Spark in the Spiral. Today's episode is going to be about Dopamine Darlings, how I stopped chasing chaos to grow my business. I used to always think that pressure, adrenaline, chasing that dopamine rush of high stakes kind of environment to be successful was a thing. I thought that chaos was that one thing that made me successful, made me belong, made me be part of something, that rush. What I didn't realize was that I was really addicted to urgency, making survival mode my success. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing how I finally stopped that thought of illusion and how I started a passion project, not a panic spiral, that helped me reset my brain in healthier ways to grow as a creative entrepreneur with ADHD. Let's get ready to dive into it. So, when I was working in a creative and sales marketing industry at age 22, it was intense. When I say intense, I mean like really intense. It was a male dominant industry at the time. Everything was a competition, super high pressure deadlines, mandatory networking events after work, whether it was in person or whether it was in Zoom, team nights several nights a week, out of work and in a work, last minute pitches that you had to revamp or make work, one on one on the spot conversations, critical conversations, intro conversations, impossible expectations a lot of times. That was just a regular Tuesday. So here's the thing. At first, I loved it. I felt like it was a game, a marathon that I could actually win. Every urgent email, immediate execution to an action plan and elaboration of something or a drill project. We need this Tuesday, we need this request, or the goal is to exceed expectations and be part of that 1% of people are successful kind of conversation triggered an addictive little dopamine personality that wasn't necessarily meaning that I was chasing success. It was really chasing the rush. Little did I know by then. Then came the pitch that really ate my brain, and that's when I realized that something was wrong, something was not right, something was not sane, something was not healthy. It was a national campaign pitch event. I hadn't slept for 3 days. I clearly remember that I was surviving on coffee and adrenaline. I remember standing in the office bathroom at 2 a.m., literally staring at my own self, my own reflection in the mirror. My eyes were like bloodshot. My hands were shaking. My face was broken out of stress. And in that moment, instead of feeling like powerful, dominant, like I have the world, I literally felt like hollow. Like I realized at that moment, like this isn't thriving, this is drowning. And if you've ever felt like this, where you're stuck in a very similar cycle, pause and drop a comment and let me know what's your dopamine loop. When I finally stepped back, I realized that my survival mode had finally been wearing a disguise. AKA, it basically felt like I was fiending into productivity or the concept of productivity. Then the reset happened, the passion project reset. Yep, said it right. The passion project reset. Exactly how it sounds because the shift came after that passion project reset. During that same season, almost like an unplanned situation, I started working on something outside of the chaos. What to me meant a personal creative project. I was actually really passionate about something that, minus the deadlines and the high stake pressures, just pure creative freedom. One evening after a particular brutal day, I actually sat down with a friend and started brainstorming. We just started having conversations and just for fun to see where that takes us, when you're catching up and just conversing about things. And we were talking about things that we've done in college, and that hit it right on spot because I was talking about when I had my jewelry minor back in college. Um, it was a lot of things that, even though it was in college, highlighted things that I wanted to do in the future because it also made me passionate and I had a clear vision towards it. Without that unhealthy pressure, without that expectation of do it now or do it never. And then something wild happened. Instead of feeling like stressed or like tight about it, I felt lit up. Instead of feeling like anxiety or overwhelmed or like I can't do this, I felt energy. I felt like I reincarnated again. That joy replaced panic. Again, that joy replaced panic. Collaborating on that project was like breathing after loads and loads of years of sprinting in a marathon. It was like the first time that I realized that my best creativity, my best persona didn't come from constantly being on edge and being in survival mode. That passion project eventually became the seed of my entrepreneurial journey, or better yet said, my entrepreneurial journey. And it showed me so much about the concept of thriving doesn't need to come from a level of stress, but the stress that's unhealthy and the rush. Thriving doesn't necessarily have to come from burning out and at the cost of your body and soul. Instead, it could come from a space of peaceful inspiration or a place of or a place which I could build something that truly lit me up and lit my soul up from inside out that could actually be seen. That experience made me dig really more deep into understanding my ADHD because I learned something so crucial. And that was that dopamine is the chemical that makes us feel motivated. It makes us feel focused, makes us feel excited, makes us ADHD brain like work in a way where only we can understand it. We're naturally drawn to novelty, to urgency, to what's the next step, what's the next exciting thing. It's high stimulation situation, which is also exactly why routine tasks for us seem very unbearable, like almost impossible. Even though we're getting it done, it almost feels impossible. But racing towards a deadline feels thrilling and euphoric. The problem is living out of that dopamine isn't really sustainable. It's a fast track to burnout. And let me give you an example. So when I used to eat fast food, and that's the best example because when I used to eat fast food, the feeling that I would get on the spot or when I was actually craving it was like, oh my God, it feels so good in the moment, but long term, it's harmful. It was harmful to me. It depleted my energy. It made me have food coma. It made me food crash, my system, inflate my body. It just gave me long term health issues afterwards. And ironically, much like ADHD brain crave dopamine, it's a very similar example because you crave it, but relying on it, especially long term, makes the cycle way worse because it builds a habit first. And once it builds a habit first, it becomes part of your lifestyle and it becomes very difficult to leave that afterwards because that's what you know better. That's what you've always done. And it's one of those things that either you stop it and you realize and build something new out of it, or simply just use it as an excuse to feel bad about it. I've now learned to create controlled novelty. So when I talk about controlled novelty that relates to my life and business, it's ways of giving myself healthy little dopamine hits and rewards that actually serve me, bring value to me rather than drain me in a very unhealthy way. And here are a few tools that help me manage my dopamine more sustainably. Starting with Spark Journal. For me, that means small wins and inspirations. And that's something that's very relative. So, whatever that means to you, starting from like writing something on scratch or action based. The second one is a gamifying flow. That's more earning rewards and action based rewards. Again, that is also relative to how that defines to you. And the last one is mini sprints, more so setting timers with short, focused workflows, but also making work feel enjoyable and focusing more on the process that you know is going to take you to that result, but enjoying the process of it. These main three shifts are the things that help me keep that spark alive without burning myself out, but also being productive and exceeding expectations. Thank you so much for joining me today in episode 2 of Spark in the Spiral podcast. And I hope my story helped you see that ADHD could definitely be a trick setter, and that sometimes what we think is excitement might just be more of stress and stilettos. So, hear me out. If you're tired of thriving in chaos and are ready to build a business and life rooted in joy and authentic energy, having ADHD, hit subscribe. I'll be sharing more about how to grow a creative entrepreneurial lifestyle and business, because as I shared in episode 1, your brain is not broken, it's just wired differently, and that's the magic. I will see you in the next episode.